Good afternoon, and welcome to More Than Meets the Eye. I'm your host, Blind Prime, and for today we're going to be doing a More Than Meets the Eye video, kind of a touch and feel video for the Star-Saber from Haslab. This is Saber added to the V-Star jet in its jet mode. Yay! For vehicle modes, I love me some vehicle modes. I don't know about you. The robot modes are cool, but the vehicle modes are always exquisite, especially whenever they can do it right. And honestly, I always think that's a good judge of a Transformers character if they can achieve the robot mode and the vehicle mode without many flops or flaws. It won't be perfect. It never is going to be perfect. Sad to say, you got to transform a robot into a vehicle. So there should be some corners cut. Our technology just isn't there. We don't have no living metal technology to allow parts to expand or contract when necessary. So instead, we just got plastic, and they do the best with what they got. And honestly, this is one of their best. This is one of their best pieces of work in the chug scale that I've come across since I've started collecting Transformers again since the beginning of War for Cybertron Siege. And yeah, this is one excellent vehicle mode, and I've handled a lot of vehicle modes now. If you've watched my channel, you know I've got more than 400 videos devoted to action figures. I mean, only about half of those are devoted to Transformers and their vehicles, but it's still a juicy number. That's more than 200 vehicles. Wow, honestly, wow. I hadn't realized I'd gotten that far until I looked at it today. I realized I'm almost at 450 videos. Jesus, I've been doing this for 2 years straight, just every week throwing out 5 or 4 or 3, but rarely do I go a week without throwing out one. Maybe I need to take a break. I don't know. Let me know. Should I take a break? Should I take the rest of Christmas off? Maybe, but no. I like it too much. I like recording too much. So we're going to talk about this guy today. And first off, we'll talk about him in Lego format. The handy dandy Lego pad, which I got right over here. And it can go down right here beside him. Boom, handy dandy Lego pad. Now, this guy is 32 studs. Well, actually more like 34 studs long, because he doesn't quite, the Lego pad doesn't quite hit all of his entire length. So I give him 33 to 34 studs in length. And if we hit the Lego pad and we do it sideways, we're just going to twist the victory, knocking that guy over. Right, victory Saber's nose is really long. Let's go over here. And on the back end of him, he's also from wingtip to wingtip about 34 studs long. Again, he is as wide as he is long. This guy can be a square, but I really appreciate the V that he makes with his body. I think that's cool. It starts from the tiny point, goes out here to the wide stuff. It's like a V with little levels on the top, little observation areas on the top of it. Balconies. That's the word I'm looking for. Balcony. Now let's give him with the cliff jumper. What is that you have on you? Is that the V-Lock cannon? How did you get that from Leo? That was his favorite cannon. And cliff jumper, I think you've gone too far. You got a problem. Okay, you can't even handle this gun. Okay, look at that. Yeah, this gun is so much larger than you, cliff jumper. You've got a problem with big guns. You need help. So let's see. Over here we've got cliff jumper. My God, the gun goes above the wing, and cliff jumper goes below the wing. It's so fun. Let's see. The cliff jumper stretches, doesn't even complete this in the back end of the vehicle. He doesn't even go down the entire length of one of these engines on the side. And I think that's funny. So we could put cliff jumper on the top. Cliff jumper can just hang out here in the middle. Yeah, look at that. The gap on the back of this guy is large enough to just fit cliff jumper into. It's pretty funny. Yeah, cliff jumper, you're just too large. You can drive around on top of him. Yeah, now he's got a buddy named Cliff Jumper with V-Lock cannon. Its kickback is extreme. Okay, so move him away, and let's get into this guy and talk about his vehicle mode. So his vehicle mode, like I said, is kind of a V shape. Hence the V-Star in the jet name. It starts with a point at the nose of the tiny jet, the core fighter, or core booster, if you will, that you plug into the V-Star, which is very similar to the idea of removing the cockpit from a Y-wing, okay? and then you instead plug in a core fighter plus core booster into the cockpit that you removed from the Y-wing. And then you throw like a Gundam shield on top of the Y-wing in between the Ys, and there, Bob's your uncle. There you go. Now that's a rough approximation on what Star-Saber looks like. That's for sure rough. But the core booster, core fighter feeling thing that Saber becomes plugs in quite nicely to the rest of this. And if you watched my Blindformers episode, then you observed how I plugged it in. And remember, when unplugging this, always hit the button. And when plugging it in, if you can hit that button while plugging it in, that would also be swell. You want to make sure that button stays around for as long as possible. Now, we're going to come over here to the sides of it. Now we got the nice little the wings from the Saber mode fold out. Then we have these two little laser bits on either side at the beginning of the giant engines for the Y-wing looking thing. It's easier to see if I flip it upside down. You can get an idea of that, how the Y-wing shape. These little tidbits would be like if you put guns on the tips of each of the two off engine, what are they? Columns for the Y-wing? I don't know what to call them other than columns. Left column and right column. We'll call them that. Yeah. That was a pun in there I did not intend. So we've got the little lasers, and they do fit blast effects. And these things are fun because they are also a little articulated. So you can pick it up and move it down. Now this is, now you're wondering like, well, that's pretty neat. But yeah, I think it's really neat that they included that. And also it showcases, a part of fighting in space. If you are, if you're doing some space combat is three-dimensional. Let us never forget Wrath of Khan, and three-dimensional combat is where it's at in space. You never forget Khan's mistake in Wrath of Khan, where he just imagined it to be a two-dimensional battlefield, and it ain't no two-dimensional battlefield up there. You can go anywhere. Somebody can come at you from all angles in space, and the best angle is from below, where there's fewer cameras. So always keep an eye out on your 6 when you're in space. Hey, would you call it the 6 if it's the clock? We'll call it the Z6. Yeah, we'll call it Z6. Keep your eye out for Z6, unless you consider Y to be the up and down. In that case, keep an eye out for your Y6. Yeah. Coming over here to the rest of him, he's got this gun that he came with. Well, it came with Victory Leo, but from what I've heard, it's actually Victory Saber's gun. And we could just move the little antennas from the helmet down so we can pull the gun out. Let's get the gun out here. Yeah, here we go. The gun fits in a siege port directly in the middle of the cockpit. And the cockpit for this starfighter is really nice. It's got these nice little ridges on it, nice little roll bar. It feels like just a top quality cockpit for a vehicle. Every part of this guy feels amazing. The sculpt work is exquisite. They didn't spare any spots. Okay, you're going to be hard pressed to find areas on this. Like there's little areas here and there that have no sculpt work, but for the most part, every square centimeter of this guy is sculpted. It's sculpted detail. I could talk to you about it for hours. Instead, I'm just going to go buy your own and fall in love with it yourself, because that's what I did here. I've fallen in love with this thing. Now you've got a siege peg sticking out in the middle right around his back area behind where the helmet plugs in, and that's actually where did I put that shield? That's where the shield plugs in quite nicely right there. And you can plug it in many different ways, but I'd like to plug it in this way with the thinnest part of the shield facing the back of the helmet. It does make for a lighter plug-in because that particular siege peg is more recessed inside of the shield and has a tendency to fall off, but it looks nicer, in my opinion. It's the way it feels, because this shield's got some vent activity going on it. You know how much I feel about vents, and believing that vents should always be faced towards where vents can suck in the most air. Okay, let's put that shield back. Here we go. Nice. Rotate it. Ah, shield! Don't you forsake me today, shield. Why? Why, shield? Why? Let's go ahead and twist them around. We'll put the easier to connect portion of the shield on the front of it. There we go. That's a deeper set port at the other end of this shield, but it will put the vents going backwards, but you can do it whichever way you feel. That is a sturdier connection plugging it in that way. But like I said, now the vents are facing the wrong way, and it makes me feel weird. Hence why I do it the other way. But you can do it either way you want. It's your own toy if you own one. If you don't own one, go get one. I recommend it. I highly do. Now we come over here to the sides. We still got that V activity where everything seems to be angled outwards. So from the front, it just slowly angles more and more out until you get to these wings where it angles out the furthest to reach its full 34 studs in width. And I think that's really cool because it comes from an area that's more like 3 Lego studs in width. So it moves from 3 to 34 and it's all angling outwards the entire way. Wow, it's elegant feeling. It's heavy too, and it's solid. And the only thing that rattles on this thing is the stuff I have stored in it. Okay, so like the little brain of courage, he rattles in there, and the blade that I stored inside of the leg rattles inside of its leg storage. And remember on my episode of Blindformers, I taught you how to hide that sword so you don't lose it, and you don't have to put it anywhere else. This thing has some transformation hiding for its weapons. Its weapons can be hidden in transformation, which is always a bonus on me, and that's a bonus with everything. Like if I got an action figure, then I want that action figure to man, the little leg section just popped out again. I want that action figure to hold all the accessories that it came with, and be able to like store them so he's not holding like 3 guns in his hands or something like that. He can store a couple of the guns on the backpack. And that's the same with this. If I get a bunch of weapons with my Transformer, I want my Transformer to be able to hold all the weapons in vehicle mode, or at least stash them away so they're hidden in vehicle mode. And it's always fun whenever they can find a way to hide something in vehicle mode, like the sword. The actual sword blade can hide in vehicle mode. I think it's cool. Like I said, I'm not really going to talk much on sculpt today. I usually do talk sculpt, but there's just so much sculpt going on. I'll bring up the biggest pieces that are really cool. So on the sides, he's got these nice little air intakes on either side that were his forearms. And they come from these little areas that are angled right before them that have more what feels like softer vents sculpted into them. So it's just the amount of vents that this thing has, where it takes in cold air to its actual inner mechanisms, tells you exactly this thing's running with a power source that's insane. It's got a power source that needs constant cooling, or else it's going to it's going to have a bad day. And that's what this feel. You got all these vents and stuff all made for cooling this guy down, and that was something that the creator of Gundam was always very, very particular on. He wanted to not only show giant robots, but he always wanted to show how they worked, and what was needed to keep them going. Like you'd be hard pressed to find a Gundam that doesn't have some sort of cooling mechanisms or vents. Even the Zaku's, they all had those tubes. Those tubes were for coolant. That's all those tubes are. They move coolant from the legs all the way up, and then they fall back down on the inside. So those pipes just bring coolant from its storage capacity in the legs all the way up to the top, and then it trickles back down. And that's how a Zaku stays cooled without using vents. But that's some little Gundam tidbit knowledge for you right there. This thing's weight is excellent. I love the little sleds. Yeah, he's got these little parking sleds that you can fold down. We showed you how to do that in the Blindformers episode, and it sits very nicely on its back little bits that actually act as the very tops of the feet for Victory Saber mode or Saber mode. And finally, let's find the piece so that we can put him on the flight stand and teach you how to do that. So we need the flight stand piece. Now, before I put him on the flight stand, let me talk about this flight stand real quick. So, Saber, if you wouldn't mind. By the way, before I forget, Saber and Jetfire here are basically the same weight. Like, at least in my hands, Jetfire feels like he weighs just a smidge more, but they are very similar in weight. And this isn't even including Victory Leo, which is about as heavy as Star-Saber. So I just wanted you to know that even though it's not the same height as Jetfire, Jetfire, did your legs screw up? You did. Jetfire, why are your legs always screwing up on me, man? Stop it. I want to. I've actually stopped keeping my Jetfire in robot mode and keeping him more in vehicle mode because his legs do mess with me, like constantly popping out of their sockets. Uh, Now, before I get into the putting this guy on the flight stand, set him off over here to the side. Please don't get knocked over by me and my elbow of doom. Um, let's talk this flight stand. So this flight stand is quite excellent. It's got this really, really nicely engraved V on it. It's raised up. What I love most about this flight stand, at least with this V, is that this is, from what I understand from reading about it, listening to people talk about it, this is actually the symbol for the TV show Transformers Victory. Now, as a blind person, I can't see those symbols anymore. I can get what the Transformers are by their feel and their vehicle modes by their feel, but like the symbol for the Transformers itself, like the show's symbols, I can't observe. And even the Autobot symbols on these Transformers I can't observe because they're just painted on. Um, Starfire, Jetfire being the one exemption to that because his little Autobot symbol that flips into a Decepticon symbol is engraved, and that's like the only place to find an engraved Decepticon symbol. This symbol, I love it because the only other engraved Autobot symbol I have is on Jetfire, which is really too small to get any details, and on the Optimus Prime MP01 on his shoulder. He's got an engraved Autobot symbol, and I love the fact that I get to feel an Autobot symbol again, and you know, it's really cool, and I really appreciate that. And understanding that Death Source came with this flight stand as well, and that they're probably going to use similar components that this flight stand used in the Death Source's flight stand, tells me that I'm going to get a raised up engraved Decepticon symbol, and I am super happy about that. Oh, and on the Death Source thing, I did want to mention I misspoke last time where I thought the Victory Saber actually had more, there were more backers than Death Source. I was wrong. The Death Source was the one with 27,000 backers, and the Victory Saber was the one with 26,000 backers. My bad. I totally confused those numbers. So that was just me correcting myself on something I said earlier that I needed to fix. Now, there's something else I was going to tell you about that I needed to fix, but I can't remember it right now. So before we get into this flight stand and putting the Victory Saber on it, or the V-Star jet on it, I did want to mention this piece that the flight stand connects to. This piece is actually designed to connect to the underside of the V-Star jet here on the groin area for the robot. It's got a little slot. It'll connect in. I'll teach you how to do that real quick. Before I do, though, I want to mention this is an octagon, and the stand has an octagon piece on it, and then you have to pick it up and then turn it and then put it back down to actually change the angle. Do not grab this thing and try to twist it. What you'll do is you'll break something. Don't do that. Do not do that. This isn't a siege port. This isn't no peg. You can't just go twisting things. You have to pick it up, move it, and put it back down. Pick it up, move it, put it back down. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and showcase that by flipping the V-Star over on its belly, on its back, and finding the groin area that was the robot mode. Feel with your fingernail, you can find that there is a very deep cut slit in one of these areas. It's towards the back of the groin, like that flat area. So what we do now is we find where that horizontal peg is inside of this piece, and we're going to then line those up. So line up that hole with that peg, and then give it some pressure. It needs a little bit of pressure to really get in there. You want to make sure that's a sturdy connection. Look at that. That's sturdy. I could pick up the entire thing by it now, and we're going to flip it around and plug it in. Now, I like plugging it in so that the nose of Victory sits above the Autobot symbol and the very tip of, the very bottom of that V symbol. So we're going to do it like that, and we can actually twist it so that it looks like he's, there it goes. Nice, look at that. I just love how you could do that, and it fits so well. Though, there needs to be a little more, this stand needed to be a little heavier in my opinion in order to better hold the weight of the V-Star, but it can hold the weight very well. It's nicely waffled, and I just remembered the other thing I wanted to mention. On my channel, I've talked about Ubitsu stands being good, and I'm wrong on that one. Please disregard all praise I've given to Ubitsu stands after I've had them up for a little over a year. they've started snapping on me. And I've got Siege Starscream, Seeker molds falling all over the place on my shelves from the snaps that are occurring, and other such jets from Transformers. Those Abitsu stands work very well for regular 1/12 scale action figures, even better for 3/4 scale action figures, and those vehicles and stuff because they're not nearly as weighty. But for the Transformers, there's just too much weight there, and you will snap your Obitsu. So do not get Obitsu when it comes to Transformer stands. Find a better stand for your Transformer. I know I will, and when I do find one, I will let you know on this channel about that. But that is all of the time I've got for you today. Let me find where my zapper went. There it is. And if you don't mind, please stay tuned in to my channel over the next few days. I'll get out Victory Leo and talk about Victory Leo, and then I'll combine Victory Leo with the V-Star Jet here and talk about the combination of those two. And then after that, we will do a video where we will be combining Star-Saber and Victory Leo into Victory Saber, the giant super robot. Is it a super ultra mega robot? I don't know, but it sure enough feels like it's a super ultra mega robot. That's for sure. Thank you for watching. Please tune into my channel, blind_prime, for more in-depth reviews and, well, all devoted to raising awareness for the blind through alternative means and methods. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, subscribing, and doing all the things everyone else asks you to do, that would be excellent as well. It would go a long way to helping me raise awareness for the blind and reaching more people out there that may be blind and may actually find a lot of use out of these products and may help them on the mental front. Because this is about helping the blind fight depression and helping other people understand that the blind can do more than just be blind. So, thanks for watching. Thank you. And Merry Christmas.